Karen's smirk was the kind that could curdle milk, but nobody expected her to steal from a war hero. The whole town knew her as the queen of complaints. But this was a new low. In the quiet town of Millview, where everyone knew your business before you did, Karen's latest stunt wasn't just gossip, it was a grenade lobbed into the heart of the community. It started innocently enough, or so Karen claimed. The local hardware store had donated a ramp kit to Tom Harris, a Vietnam vet who'd lost both legs to a landmine in '69. Tom, grizzled but kind, was the sort of man who'd give you the shirt off his back, even if it was his last. The ramp was his ticket to freedom, a way to navigate his creaky porch without relying on neighbors. The town rallied, raising funds to install it, and the kit sat in the community center storage shed, waiting for the volunteer crew to set it up. That's when Karen, with her signature huff and a purse full of self-righteousness, decided it was hers for the taking. Nobody saw it coming. Karen had a reputation. Her tirades at the grocery store over subpar avocados were legendary, and she'd once called the cops on a kid for skateboarding too close to her pristine lawn. But stealing? That was a leap. She'd spotted the ramp kit while volunteering at the center, her eyes glinting with that peculiar mix of envy and entitlement. If Tom really needed it, he'd have used it by now, she muttered to herself, loading the kit into her SUV under the cover of dusk. Her logic was flimsy, but Karen had a way of bending reality to suit her needs. She planned to use it for her own porch, claiming her bad knees deserved it more than Tom's old war stories. The theft wasn't discovered until the next morning when Tom arrived with the volunteers. The shed door hung ajar, the lock pried open, and the kit was gone. Tom's face fell, his hands gripping the arms of his wheelchair so tightly his knuckles whitened. The volunteers exchanged glances, their shock turning to fury. Word spread like wildfire, and by noon, Millview was buzzing with speculation. Who'd stoop so low? Fingers pointed quickly. Karen's SUV had been spotted near the center the night before, and her neighbor, Mrs. Clancy, swore she'd seen Karen unloading something heavy into her garage. The confrontation came at the community center's monthly meeting, a usually sleepy affair of budget talks and potluck plans. This time, the air crackled with tension. Karen strode in, chin high, unaware that Tom had rallied half the town. When he rolled in, his voice steady but sharp, the room fell silent. "Karen," he said, "you got something that belongs to me." Her face flushed, but she didn't back down. "I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped, her voice a mix of defiance and panic. The crowd murmured, eyes narrowing. Mrs. Clancy stood up, pointing a trembling finger. "I saw you, Karen. You took that ramp kit right out of the shed." What followed was chaos. Karen's denials grew louder, her excuses wilder. She claimed she'd borrowed it, that Tom didn't need it as much as she did, that the town was blowing it out of proportion. Tom's voice cut through her tirade like a knife. "I fought for this country, lost my legs for it, and you think you can just take what's mine?" His words hung heavy, and for once, Karen had no comeback. The crowd erupted, some shouting, others crying. It was more than theft, it was a betrayal of trust, of community, of the unspoken code that held Millview together. The law stepped in swiftly. Karen was charged with theft, and the case went to Judge Harper, a no-nonsense woman who'd seen her share of small-town dramas. In court, Karen tried to spin a sob story about her health, her struggles, her moment of weakness. Judge Harper wasn't buying it. "You stole from a man who gave more than you'll ever understand," she said, her voice cold. The fine was steep, $2,000, plus restitution for the ramp kit, but it was the judge's final words that stung most. "You've lost something more valuable than money, Ms. Thompson. You've lost your place in this town." Millview didn't forgive easily. The shunning wasn't organized, but it was brutal in its quiet way. Neighbors stopped waving. The diner forgot her coffee order. Her usual spot at the church potluck was conspicuously empty. Karen, who thrived on attention, found herself invisible. She'd walk into the grocery store, and conversations would hush, eyes darting away. Even her book club, her last bastion of influence, sent a polite email, "We're taking a break." Her porch, now fitted with a store-bought ramp she'd paid for herself, became a mocking symbol of her fall. Tom, meanwhile, got his ramp. The town came together, installing it in a single weekend, their hammers and laughter drowning out the sting of Karen's betrayal. Tom didn't gloat, wasn't that kind of man, but his quiet gratitude spoke volumes. At the ramp's unveiling, he thanked the town, his voice cracking just once. "This isn't just about me," he said. "It's about what we stand for." The crowd nodded, their pride in their community restored, but the scar of Karen's actions lingered. Karen's life unraveled in ways she hadn't anticipated. Her husband, embarrassed by the scandal, spent more time at work. Her kids, mortified, avoided her calls. She tried to make amends, donating to the community center, even writing Tom a letter. He never responded. The letter, found later in his trash, was unopened. Karen's apologies rang hollow, drowned out by the memory of her defiance in that packed community center. She'd crossed a line, and Millview drew a hard one in return. Months passed, and Karen became a ghost in her own town. She'd drive by the community center, see kids playing, neighbors chatting, and feel the weight of her exile. One evening, she stopped at the edge of Tom's property, staring at the ramp that had cost her everything. The lights in his house were warm, laughter spilling out. She stood there, alone in the cold, her breath visible in the air. She'd wanted to be seen, to matter, but all she'd done was erase herself. The story of Karen and the ramp kit became Millview's cautionary tale, whispered at barbecues and retold over coffee. It wasn't just about theft. It was about what happens when selfishness collides with a community's heart. Karen's fine was paid, her ramp installed, but the real punishment was her solitude. She'd stolen more than a ramp's stolen trust, and no amount of money could buy that back. What do you think, was the town's shunning of Karen justice, or did it go too far? Share your thoughts on where the line lies between accountability and cruelty.